Chief Executive John Lee says no consumption vouchers in this year's policy address because of fiscal constraints. Tropical cyclone Mitchell is moving closer to Hong Kong as the observatory weighs higher typhoon signals tomorrow. Likely relief for Hong Kong borrowers as 3 note-issuing banks cut prime lending rates after U.S. rate cuts. Good evening. You're watching Cable News. I'm Jeremy Zhu. In another busy day explaining his policy blueprint, Hong Kong's leader John Lee addressed disappointment over the absence of citywide consumption vouchers, emphasizing the need to allocate public funds carefully. He also responded to lawmakers' calls for tighter restrictions on importing foreign workers. Cheryl Yun reports.
A day after delivering his policy address, Lee spoke directly with residents on a joint radio phone-in program, explaining why Hong Kongers will not receive consumption vouchers this year. Lee noted that offering $5,000 per resident would cost the SAR up to $30 billion, an amount equivalent to the cost of constructing the Kai Tak Sports Park. He underscored the importance of allocating public funds wisely amid the government's financial pressures, prioritizing infrastructure projects over one-off relief measures. Lee also highlighted 11 proposed measures to support small and medium enterprises, aimed at supporting them at a time of Hong Kong's economic transition. Another policy sparking concern among Hong Kongers is the importation of foreign labor, as residents complained that companies are favoring foreign workers to cut costs, sidelining local staff. Lee explained that imported labor serves as a lifeline for businesses facing closure due to manpower shortages, which could otherwise harm local employment. However, he stressed that employers must not abuse foreign worker policies. Separately, lawmakers also pressed for stricter controls on foreign labor imports to safeguard local jobs during a Legislative Council Q&A session. DAB lawmaker Edward Leung proposed a circuit breaker mechanism to stop foreign workers' imports if the local unemployment rate exceeds a specific threshold. Without directly addressing the proposal, Lee emphasized that the government would monitor the labor market in real time, reiterating its commitment to prioritizing local employment. Cheryl Yun, Cable News.
Hong Shui-Kiu is expected to be one of the first areas in northern metropolis where special laws proposed in the latest policy address could apply to speed up development. The government aims to pass these laws within next year. Once enacted, a non-statutory company will be set up to manage that area. Jamie Liu has more.
In the fourth quarter, the Development Bureau will launch a public tender for the Hong Shui-Kiu site under a two-envelope approach. Officials also said they aim to set up a government-owned company to manage the industry park there and attract investment. Financial Secretary Paul Chan said the initial funding for these companies will need approval from the Legislative Council. But to allow for greater flexibility, the firms themselves will decide how to allocate the resources. Still, he stressed that the government will retain overall control to ensure they align with its strategic direction by using voting rights or board appointments. These entities will also release annual reports in accordance with company governance rules. Meanwhile, asked if subsidies would be offered to attract investments in northern metropolis, the finance chief didn't rule them out, but stressed fiscal prudence.
So in terms of incentives to be offered, we do not need to be over generous because this is public money. I have to be very careful. But we need to be also competitive. That is the guiding principle I have.
He stressed that Hong Kong is already competitive on its own thanks to a low-tax regime and diverse funding options. Jamie Liu, Cable News.
Hong Kongers are to brace for another weekend with unsettled weather as tropical cyclone Mi-chok is intensifying and edging closer. The standby signal number 1 will remain in force until at least 9 tomorrow morning, while the observatory alerted that a higher typhoon warning signal could be on the radar tomorrow.
Mi-ta is expected to intensify gradually and edge closer to the coast of eastern Guangdong. Under the influence of the northeast monsoon, Mi-ta will then turn westwards, edging closer to the vicinity of the Pearl River estuary. However, there are uncertainties in its landfall location and intensity. Depending on the intensity of Mi-ta, the distance of its persistent strong winds from Hong Kong, and the change in local wind conditions, the observatory will assess the need of issuing high tropical cyclone warning signals during the day tomorrow.
While Mi-chok is still on its way, another storm formation is also making its way towards the city and is projected to build into a super typhoon next Tuesday, with gale-force wind and thunderstorms expected. On the second full day of his historic second state visit to the United Kingdom, U.S. President Donald Trump waved goodbye to King Charles III after being hosted by the royal family at Windsor Castle last night and held talks with British Prime Minister Keir Starmer at his countryside residence. The average Britons were obviously not as keen as their country leader in welcoming Trump, as in central London, a fair way from the pageantry in Windsor, an estimated 5,000 people took part in an anti-Trump protest. A state banquet was held last night at Windsor Castle, with Queen Camilla and U.S. First Lady Melania Trump making their entrance. A total of 160 guests attended the state event, including senior members of the British royal family. In his address, King Charles III highlighted the long-standing closeness between the two countries, emphasizing their shared commitment to defending common values.
Our countries have the closest defense, security and intelligence relationship ever known. In 2 world wars, we fought together to defeat the forces of tyranny. Today, as tyranny once again threatens Europe, we and our allies stand together in support of Ukraine to deter aggression and secure peace.
Trump remarked that being the first U.S. president to make 2 state visits to the UK was one of the highest honors of his life.
The word special does not begin to do it justice. The bond of kinship and identity between America and the United Kingdom is priceless and eternal. It's irreplaceable and unbreakable.
The visit, however, was met with protests in several locations. Approximately 5,000 demonstrators marched to Parliament in central London. U.S. President Donald Trump announced plans to designate the anti-fascist Antifa movement as a terrorist organization, intensifying his criticism of the far-left ideological movement. Trump also praised broadcaster ABC's decision to indefinitely suspend late-night host Jimmy Kimmel for comments about the shooting of conservative influencer Charlie Kirk. Cheryl Yun reports.
In a move that could further deepen divisions in the U.S., Trump sharply criticized Antifa, calling it a sick, dangerous, radical left disaster and a major terrorist organization. As a decentralized movement without a clear structure, the administration has not yet clarified how it will legally designate Antifa as a terrorist group. Trump's announcement follows his repeated accusations against Antifa for various issues, including his recent claims that the radical left was responsible for the killing of Charlie Kirk. Meanwhile, ABC suspended late-night host Jimmy Kimmel after Brendan Carr, the Trump-appointed chair of the U.S. broadcast regulator, threatened action. Kimmel faced backlash for comments made about the shooting of the far-right influencer, in which he also mocked Trump's response to the incident.
We hit some new lows over the weekend with the MAGA gang desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them and doing everything they can to score political points from it.
Trump hailed the show's cancellation as great news for America, while also seizing the opportunity to criticize another news network, NBC's late-night hosts Jimmy Fallon and Seth Meyers, escalating his attacks on media outlets he accuses of bias. Cheryl Yun, Cable News.
Border violence broke out again between Thailand and Cambodia in a disputed area. Cambodia reported at least 23 injuries, while Thailand said a number of officers were wounded. This was the biggest flare-up since the Southeast Asian neighbors agreed to a ceasefire to end a deadly conflict in July. Jamie Liu reports.
The conflict began on Wednesday afternoon when Thai soldiers and police set up barbed wire fences in the area. Thailand's military presence infuriated Cambodian villagers. The villagers joined their country's security forces to confront Thai troops. Both Thailand and Cambodia claimed sovereignty over the area and accused each other of intrusion. The Cambodia side was unhappy with the barbed wire, with attempts made to remove it, escalating the tensions. Cambodia accused Thai police of firing rubber bullets and tear gas at villagers, while the Thai army said some 200 Cambodian protesters attacked them with slingshots, sticks, and stones. Some Cambodian soldiers were wounded. In a series of letters, Cambodian Prime Minister Hun Manet appealed for support from world leaders, including President Xi Jinping. Manet claimed that Thai forces tried to seize territory at 17 locations across northwestern and southwestern Cambodia. He urged Thailand to honor the ceasefire and stop using force against civilians and their property. Meanwhile, Cambodia's defense ministry coordinated with ASEAN observers to investigate the conflict site. Jamie Liu, Cable News.
Shares in Hong Kong were sold off after the benchmark index breached the 27,000 mark in early trading. After opening down 44 points, the Hang Seng Index staged a comeback in early trading, rising by 149 points to hit 27,058, a level not seen in more than 4 years. However, the momentum could not carry on as the benchmark index followed its mainland counterparts to retreat and dived more than 500 points at one point. The Hang Seng Index ended the day down 363 points. Top active stocks of the day. Alibaba was down $3.20. Tencent was down $19.50. Meituan was up 30 cents and Xiaomi was down $1. The U.S. Federal Reserve announced a long-anticipated cut in interest rates by 0.25 percentage point, lowering the federal funds rate to a range of 4% to 4.25%. In Hong Kong, all three note-issuing banks followed by slashing their prime rates by 12.5 basis points.
This is the first rate cut by the Fed in 9 months and the first since U.S. President Donald Trump returned to the White House. Fed Chair Jerome Powell stated that the cut is part of risk management, taking into account a cooling labor market and shifting risks. He emphasized the Fed's firm commitment to maintaining its independence. The Fed's latest projections suggested an additional half-point cut by the end of the year, followed by quarter-point reductions in each of the next 2 years. Back in Hong Kong, Chief of the Monetary Authority Eddie Yu said that lower interest rates could slightly ease the debt burden for individuals and businesses, offering some positive impact on the economy and property market, though the latter remains influenced by supply and demand as well as the overall economic environment. Yu pointed out that U.S. interest rate trends still face uncertainty, while local Hong Kong rates will be affected by capital supply and demand in the short term. He urged the public to manage interest rate risks carefully. The city's three note-issuing banks also trimmed their rates for the first time since last December, but only by 1/8 of a percentage point, not exactly following suit. HSBC and Bank of China Hong Kong have lowered their prime rates to 5.125%, while Standard Chartered's best rate is now 5.375%.
Onto the weather now. Mainly cloudy with a few showers and squally thunderstorms. Showers will increase gradually tomorrow. Sunny intervals in the morning. Temperatures will range between 27 and 32 degrees. Moderate to fresh easterly winds. Occasionally strong offshore and on high ground. Winds will strengthen gradually. That's our news tonight. I'm Jeremy Zhu. Thanks for watching and good night.